Welcome back. It's another edition of Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson. Mike Grimm and Justin Gaard with you here on this Tuesday. The head coach, of course, is with us as well. It was a Sunday setback down in Iowa City. We'll talk about that. And tomorrow, Minnesota is on the road for another game at Nebraska. All of those things are on the docket today. First of all, JG, good to see you.
Good to be here. Great to be with you guys. We're all in like different areas of the country, which is phenomenal, 2022, but we're coming together. That's how we're going to roll today.
Yeah, no question about it. Coach, good to see you.
Good to see you guys, man.
Coach, you've got a day now put behind you from that Sunday loss in Iowa City. And, that second half was a tough one, no question. What do you see when you kind of break the film down and you put a day behind it? And what's the message kind of the team as you get ready to embark on another road trip here with a game at Nebraska tomorrow?
Yeah, I thought after watching it, it was a pretty solid 30, 32 minutes that we played. I didn't feel like we kind of unraveled until about the 8-9 minute mark. Our message to the guys was, it's a tough place to play. It always has been. And, when you're able to go into halftime with kind of that momentum that I thought we have, you got to ride that wave. You got to find a way to maintain that wave, that energy, that confidence, because you knew they were going to make a run, and you knew the crowd was going to get involved, and you knew they were going to crank the heat up. Something was going to happen, and sometimes if you don't fight fire with fire, that's when on the 8-9 minute mark happens, and that's what I thought it was. I thought just we kind of left and lost our urgency a little bit in terms of just our fight, and and our confidence got shook a little bit, and their energy, it showed, and they went on a run, and we just were never able to withstand it and come back from that. So, it's a tough pill to swallow when you had a lot of things going your way and in your favor. But in this league, you can't have those 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 minute lapses, especially on the road.
You had an interesting quote post-game, Ben, about there's a difference between effort and mental toughness. And I think it's a great quote. I think you're 100% right. But define the difference for us on what you see between the effort, which was there, but the mental toughness of fighting through those adverse moments.
Yeah. Our guys will always give max effort. I never have questioned that, and never will. That they've done a great job in everything they do to give the effort that's needed. But then there comes a point when you have to combine that with being mentally tough, meaning, you could have the effort offensively to make all the right plays and have all the right intentions. But if you have the weak mental turnover, right, or the lazy pass or the lazy dribble or the over dribble, or, you give in and you take a bad contested shot because you're not tough enough to continue to swing it or work to get a great one, well, then that's when you have problems. And I think they need to understand it, that like the effort I'll never question, but we've got to get a little bit more mentally tough, especially in winning time, to be able to close the gap.
And I thought too Sunday a little bit, there was a stretch, and you don't frankly see it a lot from Iowa in the sense that they just kind of swarmed at times in that second half, the perimeter. They kind of jumped the guards, and I don't know, did that surprise, because you don't see Iowa do, defense isn't their calling card per se. Did that surprise the guys a little bit? And then how do you try to make the in-game adjustment to say, oh man, this is, that this is something that they don't normally do. And we're having some, at least for the moment, some struggles with it.
Yeah, normally you see that when they go to their 3/4 court press, but we were able to handle that fine, and so I think they did what they needed to do. They had to revert to something to try to take us out of our flow, because we had shot a pretty good percentage. I thought we were getting looks we wanted to get, and so on their end, to their credit, they knew they had to change something up, and they really pressed up and climbed in and forced guys to almost make it a one-on-one game and made it tough to run offense. And that's where I thought we kind of got disjointed. We didn't have that mental toughness to be strong with it and stay within our stuff. And then it's funny, that happens, and all of a sudden a couple guys forget to play, and then you run the play wrong, and then you get a couple shot clock violations because guys are in their own head and you're not paying attention to time and score. And so that's that's the piece that I was referring to as like the effort and all that could have been there. But if like, if our team has shot clock violations because we're not mentally tough and we're in our own world and we're not locked in to what matters and we're not all, on the same page, going in the right direction. So it's a good learning experience to have. Obviously, like I said, you never want to lose. But now it's like we got to realize and figure out the reasons why and grow from those reasons so that it doesn't happen again.
Well, what was going right those first 32 minutes, like you say? It seemed like you talk a lot about following the plan. Are the guys doing what we're asking them to do? It seemed like for 32 minutes, that was pretty much the case. So what was working well in that first 3 quarters of the game?
Yeah, I think it's, started off, we made shots early. I think that always helps. I thought we were engaged. I thought we had the right mind frame. We ran our stuff pretty good. We shared the ball. I thought our defense, for the most part, was doing its job, whether it was man or zone. Our rebounding was good. I mean, we were doing everything as well as the mental piece on both sides of the ball. And there's a reason why we went into halftime with a lead. And I thought with momentum. And again, I think that's it's all we talked about at halftime was like, you guys have to understand when Luke made that shot, that's like kind of like a backbreaker in my mind, where now you got to be foaming at the mouth when you come out of halftime because the momentum's flipped. And also you've got to know that they're going to come out swinging, because they knew that they messed up. And we were able to get, we want to go 2 for 1 at the end of half. We were able to get the 2 for 1 in, which was good. Just things were in our favor. And that's when you got to ride that wave, man. That's when you've got to you can't get complacent. You have that moment. You've got to be able to take it and expand it and extend that lead.
Yeah, you guys were up 4 at half after Lowy, banked that shot in from half court. And then Iowa came out, as you mentioned, they hit the first 4 shots, but you banged 3 threes right away. So you actually extended the lead to 5 there. And then that's when they kind of, put on a little blitz. So that stretched, as you said, into that first half of the second half before they really, you mentioned them kind of blitzing the perimeter, and you got a couple shot clock violations, which you could withstand, except then they went down and Murray hit a 3 and Ulis hit a 3. And all of a sudden, it happens quickly, right? And that's probably another lesson to learn, particularly on the road.
Yeah, no, it happens quickly. And we talked about at the end of the game that, how much details matter. And I thought there were a couple detail plays that led to those transition momentum plays for Iowa. And if you don't have a breakdown in the small details, whether that's getting back in transition defense after a missed shot, whether that's having a careless turnover that leads to a transition 3, that's a momentum play. You've got to find ways to eliminate those. I think we can all live with missed shots. You can all live with, the right kind of turnovers that aren't like catastrophic that lead to transition points. Especially against a team that's how they want to play. They want to be able to get up and down and play in flow and not necessarily as much in the half court. And, I thought that's where we kind of lost our way a little bit.
There's a lot of this might be a long winding question, so I apologize, but I'm thinking about my role with the women's team, and I've watched them have situations where they've had a lot of close games, go down to the wire, not be able to finish the play. But there's also situations where, they're up 5, just got to stop with the ball on the road against Indiana, for example. There's 7 minutes left. Here's the time where you put the hammer down, get a good shot, and it'll be a moving screen, turnover. You don't even get a shot off. And then all of a sudden, Indiana hits a 3. Rest is history. So you work on end game all the time. You work on out of bounds stuff after timeout all the time. How much do you talk about just different scenarios at the 12-minute mark, for example, where the game's going and we just went on a little bit of a run and they just missed another shot. And here's our opportunity to really extend that lead and make them sweat and make them think in their home building.
Yeah, we actually talk about that a lot, especially second half when you get to your media timeouts. I think that's the biggest point of emphasis is understanding kind of where you're at in the game at that time, and then what's right and what's wrong and what's going to be needed to do. I think that's huge. I think, guys got to leave those media timeouts, especially at, the under 12 and on, knowing, all right, in these next 4 minutes, what do we got to do or what's the point of emphasis? And I think a lot of it is that it's, if you have that lead, playing with the lead. I think that's a very underrated thing, is you have to know how to play with a lead. Everybody talks about when you're behind, but it's as important, if not more, especially on the road, to know how to play with the lead. And so we talk about those points, constantly. Talk about execution, talk about, hey, they're probably going to make a run, or, we need to keep just executing what we've been doing. Don't need to do anything crazy, but it's the little details. Like you said, it's the not having the moving screen. It's not, having a careless turnover. It's just keeping it simple, keeping it solid, and doing what we're doing, to keep that flow. That's how you extend the lead. It's not getting out of character, but it's also understanding, all right, it's getting really close to winning time, which is what we talk about all the time. Those last 4 minutes, if you're in position, that's winning time. And you have to have, full attention to details, can't have breakdowns in those winning time moments. And again, it's just, I think, good reminders for guys that, execution matters.
Well, let's take our first break. We will come back. We'll continue to break down this Gopher basketball team. I want to remind you, tomorrow night, we will take air at 7:30 from Lincoln, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Nebraska, an 8 o'clock tip-off from Cornhusker Land. Sunbelt Business Advisors should be on your team roster if you're buying or selling a business, and there's never been a better time than right now to get on the list. So you can get your Sunbelt no-cost confidential business valuation today. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com. That's sunbeltminnesota.com. We thank them for their support. This is Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield. Welcome back. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson, Mike Grimm, and Justin Gaard, along with the head coach, Ben Johnson. Our show is sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. You can get your no-cost confidential business valuation today by visiting sunbeltminnesota.com. Gophers and Huskers tomorrow night. We'll preview that coming up a little bit later on in the show. We're rewinding the last game, Iowa and Minnesota, and then we have not had a chance, at least on this show, to talk about the game before that, and that was the Wednesday night Purdue Minnesota game at the barn, which the Gophers trailed by 18 at one point, cut it to 7. I think had a shot in the air. I forget whether it was to cut it to 4 or to 5, and fought hard toward the end. Coach, we'll just go back briefly to recap that last home game. And one, that Purdue team's pretty talented. I mean, you think about, they have Travion Williams, who was first team All Big Ten last year, coming off the bench, and I think in the last 6 games he's only averaging like 16 or 18 minutes a game. Tells you a little bit about how they've stockpiled some talent there, making them as they are ranked in the top 5.
Yeah, no, it's a well put together team. Even guys off the bench, probably could start for a handful of teams in our league. So, and every time you play a team like that, that's also really skilled, can shoot the ball, and I think has really good role definitions. You definitely got to be at your best. There's not a lot of room for error against any team, but especially a team that's pretty loaded and well oiled as the Boilermakers are this year.
Well oiled. I like that. Well oiled. I'm going to write that down for later. We're going to work on well oiled. Go ahead, Grimmer. I'm not very well oiled right now, so you go.
Well, that was I was just going to have one follow up because Ben, you've talked about this a number of times, that when you're trying to, as you're building this culture and this mindset that you want to build in the team, that maybe there's a couple teams in the league that you want to follow that model, or at least pull some things from it. I think Purdue fits that category in a number of ways. One, you're a little like Matt Painter in that you played here. You kind of understand, it's every program's got their own unique nature about them, whether it's Minnesota or Purdue or Michigan State or Iowa or Nebraska or I don't care, Texas and Texas Tech. They all have their own little thing. Well, you've lived it, you know it, and so you know the secrets a little bit, and so you've got that. Matt was hired at a young age at his alma mater. You hired at a young age at your alma mater. And I also think, if I'm reading what you have said in the past, right, that you kind of want to play a little like they do in terms of how tough they seem to always play, how hard they seem to always play. They always play good defense. And then they have built a significant home court advantage, which is certainly possible with the building that you guys play in. So if you want to just, I guess that's my monologue on it. If you want to build on that or talk about that, here's your opportunity, I guess. Yeah, no, I think, Purdue is one of those programs that knows their niche. I think that's so key, especially when you're not, quote unquote, a blue blood. You've got to make sure that you understand what your brand is. And each school has a different brand. What works at Minnesota might not work at Indiana or an Iowa, and what works at Purdue
might not work at Minnesota or Ohio State, but that's the point, is that you got to understand, who you are, what you are, how you want to build it, and what success looks like at your own school. And so I think Matt's done a great job of just understanding, how he wants to play, the type of players that fit his personality and fit that style and fit that system. And they go and get those and they recruit those type of kids. And, I think that's a pretty solid blueprint regardless of where you're at. But, especially here, I think, Minnesota has a special niche. And I think it's really good for a certain type of kid and certain type of player. I think the Big Ten is suited for a certain type of player. And so we'll do that. I think you got to stick to your guns and follow that recruiting blueprint, which I know we will, and I know we have up to this point. And then you got to have that system that does fit it. I think, traditionally the Big Ten has been a certain type of league. And I think, the biggest thing that Purdue does is they take players that know how to play and that are smart and versatile. And I just think that's so undervalued. I think it's easy to get caught up in some of the stuff that's quote unquote sexy, but what wins? I think that's what matters is can a player, does it translate and is it conducive to winning? So that's what we'll try to do, and find guys that can fit, check all those boxes.
One of the other things Purdue does, and you notice this every year when I'm filling out my charts, it's a point guard, Indianapolis, off guard, Fort Wayne, number 3 guy, South Bend, Crown Point, Indianapolis. You go back to Robbie Hummel and his Valparaiso. They have targeted in-state guys and been effective with that. It's obviously a basketball rich state anyway, and that is maybe a good jumping off point to ask you about in-state recruiting. Obviously, you've got 3 signed for this coming class. They rely on that. I know that's an important piece of how you want to build this as well, because to me, there is a factor when you get a kid that just lives down the road that has that Minnesota on the chest, and his mom and dad are at the game and his friends are at the game. To me, that's a different extra heartbeat that you can get from a team.
Yeah, I think, it goes also that, hopefully they've followed your program. So they've been a little bit more invested than, the casual high school kid that maybe doesn't follow Gopher basketball. Hopefully they grew up watching the Big Ten. So it excites them to play in this league. And that means something, to play in a league that they've grown up and followed and know kind of the history of. And then I think, anytime, that you get those 2 things on the same level, good things happen. And there's a lot of pride that comes into that. But I think understanding the league sometimes can be undervalued. There's good players everywhere, but, especially when you get somebody that's kind of watched the development or understands the history of the Big Ten, there is a little bit extra, push, and I guess special feeling, maybe what you call it. And I think, in-state recruiting, I don't care what school you're at, is always important. Typically those are the ones that are a little bit easier to get because they're right there. They're it's a lot more tangible, and so that's always going to be an important piece. You want to be able to, the ones that are good enough and fit what you do, make this place a priority for them and for you. Priority to get them, and hopefully a priority in their eyes to eventually come and help push this program forward.
Well, we're not going to make it Purdue fan line, but you talk about fit. It's interesting, they had, Grimmer mentioned the Hummel era, which Juwan Johnson and everybody who was there. That's kind of the first wave. And then this happened at Villanova too. I think you start to have success, and all of a sudden more people are answering your phone calls, and you say, hey, I'm with Purdue, or I'm with Villanova, I'm with Minnesota, and you might be able to get, a higher ranked type of player. And that's seductive, right? That's sexy. Do that for a few years. I remember Purdue losing to Nebraska in the Big Ten tournament, like 2012, 2013, and kind of being at a crossroads, and he went back to their kind of guys. It's a good lesson about fit, right? Of when you're recruiting, it's like, just because a player's ranked this or plays on this AAU team or has this number of stars, it might not be the best thing. And it seems like they've gone back to the fit, which is something that you've talked about forever.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's all about what impacts winning, and what does a player have that can translate and fit the way that you want to play, fit your league, and fit winning. It's easy. Sometimes you can get caught up in, the extra stuff or the outside stuff, or maybe trying to win the day and win that press conference. But once they come to campus, they become now your problem or your, so to speak. So, you want it to be able to fit for long term, not just for the day or for the moment, but you want it to fit for long term. And so you got to recruit guys that impact winning, and that fit kind of your style. And again, our style is that probably doesn't fit every kid, and that's fine. It's finding the ones that are talented enough and good enough that fit what you do. And when you do that, then that's when I think you're able to take off. But it's definitely got to be, that perfect mesh. You just can't throw talent in a room and just hope it works out. As much as some people may think you should do that or want to do that, you can't just it's not a collection of talent when you put together a team. It's got to be the right pieces that fit what you're trying to do and fit your puzzle.
And Jamison Battle obviously has been a great fit for you. Peyton Willis has been a great fit for you. Both those guys have really carried you much of the season. So when Jamison has a tough day like he did on Sunday against Iowa, where the shots just aren't falling, like how do you handle that with him? Do you keep pumping his tires? You just say, hey, you show him clips? I mean, it was just one of those days where it seemed like nothing could fall for him.
Yeah, no, he had a tough night. I think the biggest thing is we even talked about in game. I don't, for all of our guys, but especially guys that, have been shot makers or can make shots. As long as you take the right ones, that will get you over the hump. And you can't worry about, if you go 0 for 10, but they're all great looks, you got to be able to live with that. You got to be able to be confident enough to live with that. And I thought he did. He had a couple of wide open ones that he normally makes, and he didn't. I just don't want it now all of a sudden to be where, guys are pressing, and then you start hunting, and then it's just that rim becomes, the size of a needle. You just got to continue to play within our offense and take good shots, take right shots for you and for our team.
And with him, it's been a situation where if he's had a rough stretch, even within a game, he might be 1 for 7, and you have to be patient because all of a sudden, the first game with Iowa, he did that. I think he was 1 for 8, and then all of a sudden he banged 4 threes in the second half, which helped you guys get, cut that game down to 3. So sometimes you just have to wait for the hot hand to get back, right? And on the flip side of that, instead of hunting, I suppose, and maybe not in Jamison's case, but there might be times where if a guy goes 1 for 12, now he's gun shy. He doesn't shoot. And when you're counting on him to put up 16 or 18 a night, you need him to keep shooting, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. You can't lose your edge, and you got to know who you are too as a player. Like if you're a guy that can make shots, and that's part of who you are and your role in the team. Well, you can't now get gun shy. Because then that puts pressure on the offense, puts more pressure on the team to get a better shot. So now it's on us, it's on me to find ways to get them looks and get them free. But yeah, I don't ever want guys, because of maybe the numbers, if they're in a good rhythm offensively, to now get gun shy because to your point, we've all seen it. Jamison's a guy that all of a sudden could go 0 for 4, but then could go 4 for 4 and completely change the game. And so you gotta, be with a player like that can do that and get hot. There is a little bit more level of freedom, I guess, because there's you've seen it. But at the same time, there's a difference between, giving a guy freedom and going out there and trying to get yours. And I don't think he's done that. I think for the most part, he's done a pretty good job of playing within, what we're trying to do. And at the same time, also knowing he's got to be a guy that can get up some looks.
Yeah, he has, going back to last year at George Washington, he had put up 34 straight double-digit games, and that string came to an end on Sunday. So hopefully he can start a new string tomorrow night when the Gophers take on the Huskers. It's time for a break here. We'll do that, but we also want to mention if you have a coach for coach question, that is for Coach Ben Johnson, you can ask it by going to gophersports.com/askthecoach. Submit your question. If yours is chosen as question of the week, you'll receive a $25 gift card from the University of Minnesota bookstore. We thank them for their support of the show, and we'll ask the coach the question here on the air. Guardsy will ask the questions when we come back. The long contested 2. Stay with us. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield. Welcome back. It is Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson. Tomorrow night, it's Minnesota and Nebraska. Spencer and I will take air here on the Gopher Radio Network from Lincoln at 7:30. It's an 8 o'clock tip-off from Pinnacle Bank. We want to thank our sponsor, Sunbelt Business Advisors. You can go to sunbeltminnesota.com to find out all you need to know about the great folks there. JG, it's time for the long contested two here on our weekly program.
Yes, thank you, Grimmer. We talked to Ben, I don't know, a month ago or so on if he was a hockey guy. And I think we learned that he played hockey for 1 year. It was too cold. He couldn't believe parents had to shovel off the snow on the outdoor rink and use the boards to stop himself while he was skating. Is that accurate, Ben? Did I distill that correctly?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate right there.
Pretty spot on. All right, so we know that one's out because the Winter Olympics are going on right now, which I've watched none of, which actually kind of hurts because I love the Olympics. But what Winter Olympic sports would you most likely to be good at? I'll give you some options if you don't have any off the top of your head. But Winter Olympic sport, we know that hockey is out. What intrigues you? What do you think you could be good at or want to try?
That's tough. Man, I would say Winter Olympics. I've always been a little bit intrigued with the bobsled.
Yep. That's on the list. Now, are you 4-man, 2-man, luge? What do you think?
See, those are details.
I think you'd be a hell of a loser myself.
I would have to know a little bit more about the position. I mean, I'm sure something goes into like where you're seated at.
Yep.
I don't know which one is faster. Probably the one that has a little bit less speed, whether that's 4 or 2. But I think, growing up, I was a big Cool Runnings guy. So I would say that kind of like the bobsled, I guess, would be one that'd be intriguing.
Well, for our age, and Jamaica has a bobsled team this year. So everybody that's our age is like losing their minds because, you've got Sanka, you got John Candy, you got Maurice, you got everybody there. But the bobsled, Herschel Walker tried to be a bobsledder because basically if you're strong and you're fast, you can be a good bobsledder.
I think Lolo Jones is doing it still, who was a track athlete. Sad about the Olympics, I couldn't even tell you what channel it's on or where to find it.
I know.
That's part of the problem. It's like you got all these obscure, channels, or you got to find it on the internet or this or that. I could be wrong, but like I don't think anybody knows where to watch it.
It's difficult. And Beijing creates another problem where it's like a half day ahead, the time zone problems. That always happens. I've got some more info on the bobsled, so we'll narrow it down for you here. Let's start with the 4-man. There are 4 athletes, obviously. Driver, who steers the bobsled down the track. 2 crewmen who help push the sled at the beginning of the race. And a brakeman who pulls the brakes and stops the sled at the end. So which one?
Driver.
Yeah, I think,
driver.
You're a head coach.
Yeah.
The head coach can't say, "Oh, I'll be the crewman. I'll just do the dirty work." You're the head coach. You have to say driver, right?
If we're going down, it's going to be because of me. I want to have that. Yeah, I don't trust anybody else's driving. We're winning it because of me.
Rely on anybody else.
Yeah, we're winning it because of me, or we're crashing and burning because of me. But it's going to be, it's going to be at my hands.
How much?
You want the ball?
How much steering comes into play? Isn't it just like a tunnel? Aren't you just going? It's like the water slide, right?
No, there's lots of turns, and you gotta pull the right lever.
I would assume just making sure you don't go, too high up, so you're flipping it. Probably just keeping it kind of steady.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't mind going for a ride along just to feel it, but I think I'd be petrified to have to steer that sucker myself.
Well, but again, you're going. I don't know exactly how fast they go, but I think being in the back and relying on the person in front, that would be I couldn't handle that. Yeah, I'd be losing my mind.
Well, it's kind of like us on all these team flights. You rely on the pilot, man. We don't know anything.
You do.
Bobsleds can attain speeds of up to like 90 miles an hour, according to this one.
Yeah, I want to be in control of that.
Yeah, that's not good. And as a guy who's driven to Madison with Grimmer, we call him Rumble Strip. Because he ends up on that's how we keep. They're there literally for him on 94. If you're ever in a car with Grimmer, you want to be driving. You don't want to be the brakeman. You don't want to be the crew. That's we learned that a couple of years ago.
Life is precious.
Yeah, exactly. We only get one. Don't put him in Grimmer's hands. All right, so you're the driver of the bobsled. Curling. What do we think? Curling's a big Minnesota thing. We've got obviously John Schuster. He carried the flag for the U.S. team. Tyler George from Duluth. Where do we stand on curling? Have you ever been intrigued by curling?
Yeah, we don't stand very high on curling. That's not. We're going
walking on ice.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. If I'm going to be cold on ice, I'm going to play hockey. That's the way I look at it. I understand. Speed
skating, I think we know about that. What about cross-country skiing or downhill skiing? Any interest there?
You know what? Is it the moguls? Is that the one with the bumps, right? Yeah. God, those look bad on your knees. Probably more downhill skiing, if I had to guess, just straight bombing those hills. But again, that's those guys are flying. So that's see, Winter Olympics it's high risk. I mean, like there's a lot of stuff.
You got to sign a waiver.
Yeah, I feel like it's a big waiver deal. Like you could potentially end up hurting yourself significantly in a lot of these sports, which is like I don't get that. That's why it's like summer. There's not a lot of like you're in warmth. You're protected. The Winter Olympics is almost like made for TV. Like there's a lot of chance that like it could not go well. And it could be bad.
You don't see a lot of people airlifted off of like beach volleyball, like you might for downhill skiing or mogul or something like that. Or
just blowing your knees out, or just like when you're going upwards of 90 miles an hour in anything you do, like to me, that's scary. And the ice and the snows, it's not like it's forgiving. It's not like there's a lot of padding, when you're flying down that thing.
No, they don't care.
I think Lindsey Vonn, I was watching a documentary. Her body is so banged up. Like the amount of surgeries that she has had is incredible. Like it's very comparable to like a football player that's gone through like a Hall of Fame 12-year career. And it's just like the rehab that she's had to go through and the tolls that like downhill skiing takes on your body. It's incredible. I mean, I had no idea until I watched that documentary, which is really good. Recommend it. But man, it puts it in perspective.
Yeah, I'm taking a look here. If there's any like indoor non-violent sports at the Beijing 2022 Olympics, I mean, we've got alpine skiing, biathlon. I mean, you're outside, skiing and then shooting.
You got a gun with you. I mean, protection.
Yeah, but that's not going to help you stay warm. Bobsled, cross-country skiing, curling, figure skating, freestyle, hockey. Yeah, no, you're pretty much out. Skeleton, which is like the scariest bobsled. That's just one man. Yeah, you're just going. You're on your back and it's over. I mean, that's like
you can't even see in that one. That's my thing. It's like, who does that?
Guardsy, I have you as a figure skater. You'd be good at the triple Lutz, I think, with your agility.
What messed up figure skating is that movie with Will Ferrell with Chaz Michael.
Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory destroyed figure skating for me. So that's
definitely made it. It took a turn. It took a turn with Blades of Glory. Ski jumping. What about ski jumping? I think because you're kind of in control. Like you dictate how fast you're going. You can adjust. I mean, I would think a basketball player would be good at ski jumping. You're a little bit more. No, it's been around for a while, but it's like a long jump on skis.
Yeah, you don't want to be out over your skis. Where
I got you. Yeah. No,
that's where that saying came from. I think, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. The height is a little much. Like you are up there. Again, it's like. Are you supposed? I mean, if you're up there at that height and you lose where you're at, and either way, when you come down, it's not like it feels great, right? Even when you land it, you're not. You stick it. You stick it. It's like you do a couple rounds of that. You're not waking up the next morning feeling awesome. So again, it goes back to like you really look at the Winter Olympics. It's pretty barbaric.
Well, and don't you, Guardsy, isn't that literally that's the sport that for years was the agony of defeat, right? On the Wide World of Sports intro, that was a ski jumper that was tumbling to his near death, the agony of defeat in there. So yeah, that's a tough one. There is a ski jump out in Bloomington, Coach. We could probably hook you up if you wanted to give it a shot.
I'll go if you go.
I'm going to pass.
Yeah, that's not good for anybody. That's not good for anybody. All right. Well, we've established you're going to be watching plenty of film because you're not going to be locked in on the Nordic combined skiing or the short track speed skating or anything like that. So that's good. You'll be prepared for Nebraska and what Fred Hoiberg's got going for you because you're not staying up, seeing if maybe people crash and burn and end up in a hospital in Beijing somewhere.
He's also worried. He's also a little bit worried about trying to find it on Peacock HD4, or wherever you have to find the actual event
or live stream on some weird, 12-hour delay.
Right.
I It's hard, man.
All right. Hey, let's wrap.
Grateful for the Big Ten Network. We're very grateful for the Big Ten Network.
No
Nice
question.
and simple.
Let's take our final break. We'll have our final segment. Stay with us. It's sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Go to sunbeltminnesota.com. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield. Welcome back. Our final segment. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson. We're glad you're with us here on this Tuesday. It's a travel day today for the Gophers. Tomorrow night, it's Minnesota and Nebraska. 8 o'clock is the tip-off, and it is a 7:30 pregame show. Spencer Tolix and I will greet you at that time from Lincoln. And, Coach, a bit of old stomping grounds for you in this case. You're going back as a head coach. You were there as an assistant under Tim Miles. What do you remember about your time in Lincoln?
Yeah, no, I had a really good time. That was, obviously my first opportunity to coach at a Power Five. It was the first year that the basketball team, or actually the athletic department, moved from the Big 12 to the Big 10. Coach Miles' first year at a Power Five, so there were a ton of good memories. We actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the very last home game in Bob Devaney, I think, was against Minnesota, and we beat them.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
That's when I think Austin and Andre were still playing, and Trevor was still playing. It was an NCAA tournament team. And, So no, I had a bunch of good memories. It's a big time university. Lincoln's a great, I think underrated city. So now I know how tough Pinnacle is. I think it's still called that, to play.
Yep.
So I've prepared our guys that you got to throw the records out the window. It's a tough place to play, and we got to do a really good job of this week preparing for Nebraska. But we got to worry about us and get back to us playing and feeling right.
What do you see from Nebraska? As you mentioned, the record certainly is not there. They're fighting and clawing, trying to get that first win in the league. And what do you see from the Cornhuskers? Yeah,
very, very, very talented roster. They've got some big time pieces. Fred's obviously a good coach that runs good stuff offensively. I know they've had a couple lineup changes. They've had a couple pauses. They're trying to find their way a little bit. So, there's going to be a lot of elements that go into this game. And that's why I think at the end of the day, we obviously have to know their tendencies on both sides of the ball, but this will be a big game about us and getting us back right.
And what do they do? Like you mentioned, Fred offensively, obviously that's kind of been his calling card, bringing some NBA stuff to Iowa State and now obviously to Nebraska as well. So what do they do that kind of poses problems that you have to be aware of?
Well, first thing is they got some talented players. You got both, the McGowan brothers that are just that have length, have athleticism. Both can go and get their shot, create offense. Alonzo Verge at the point guard, I've known him, since high school, super, super talented lead guard that can break you down one-on-one. So I think when you watch film and the more you dive into it, it can't be a one-on-one game because that's where they're really good. They can space you. They do a lot of ball screens, a lot of drive and kick, a lot of 4-out. It can't be an open gym type feel for us on our end. They gotta withstand and they gotta face our half court man-to-man defense and 5 bodies. So we'll do our best to do that. But again, they're much better than their record. That's what I told tell our guys today is you got to throw the record out the window, throw the scores out the window. I mean, this is a talented team, and again, I think they're now just finally getting everybody back healthy, get everybody off of COVID, off of injuries that they've had. And again, they're trying to find their way. So they'll be hungry to get in the win column.
Yeah. How hard is it to fight that human nature, not just playing against a team that hasn't won in the Big Ten, but when you look at your case individually, these first, whatever it is, 11 games in the Big Ten, you have not played anyone that's in that bottom tier. And fans certainly have talked about, now here's a quote softer part of the schedule. How do you talk to your team about that? So they, hey, it's Big Ten basketball here. There's nothing, necessarily soft about any of these opponents.
Yeah, no, there's no layups. I think that's the one thing we have to, we have to understand, especially on the road. I don't care who you're playing. When you go on the road in this league, you throw everything out the window. We still got to look at ourselves as the underdog. whether we are or aren't. I mean, we have to have that underdog fighter mentality. And, we know we can beat anybody, but we can surely get beat by anybody on every given day if we're not in the right mind frame and we don't compete and we don't execute and we don't bring it. So from our standpoint, nothing will really change. I don't want to put a bunch of pressure on our guys like, this is the Super Bowl or it's a must win. No, each game's the same. We have to go out there with the right mind frame, worry about us playing Minnesota basketball. I think if we do that and we get back to that and we're feeling that and we're confident in that, we'll play well on Wednesday.
All right. Well, very good, Coach. We appreciate it. As always, we'll see you in Lincoln tomorrow night.
Sounds good. See you guys.
All right, we'll take air at 7:30. The tip-off is 8 o'clock tomorrow, the Gophers and the Huskers. This has been Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield.